Where does the stereotype, Asians eat cats and dogs, come from? It comes from the fact that in some small parts of Asia they eat cats and dogs. Because they do. Although to be fair, so do some African cultures. Couple of places in Polynesia and some rural communities in Switzerland. From the fact that in South Korea, China, and Vietnam, they eat dogs. China even has a dog meat festival thing. In China, finding a restaurant that serves dog is like finding a US restaurant that serves alligator. Not every restaurant serves it, but it is not unheard of for people to eat it. I'm from Asia, specifically Philippines. Back then as a kid I remember my father and his friends eats dogs and it's kinda common back then. It was kinda strange because we also own dogs and they were never eaten. Luckily none of us inherited that taste from our father. Now that practice has died down. I really hope so, as the laws have changed and there's a crackdown on those still on dog meat trade. Though I never heard here in our country of eating cats. There was once a rumor that some organization is hunting cats and their meat to be put on meat dumplings by the Chinese. But if I remember correctly that was just a rumor. Because they are not seen as pets in some countries and are treated like all other animals. Which means food. In China some people do eat dogs. But not really cats. It's considered weird even by those who eats dogs. In terms of the reason. Because in the past the concept of pet is not very universal, only the rich can afford it and normal people were having a hard time feeding themselves so they can't bother keeping any animal that are not useful. Dogs were still popular domestic animal because they can guard your home. And they can be food when the owner needs them to be. Pretty much the same as other livestocks. Like cows can help farmers to farm the land. And they are also meat source. People didn't have the luxury of saying, "They're my friends, I can't eat them." In the modern society eating dogs has become much less welcomed and there are lots of native young people against it because dogs are mostly pets now. However, there are still people keeping this tradition and farm dogs as livestock for this purpose. I, as a dog owner, am not really against people keeping their tradition. Dogs can be friends to us. They can also be food for others. There's no such thing as, "My friend must also be your friend," right? From what I have heard, coming from family and friends who have lived in Asia, the southeastern part of Asia, majority of Asian people choose not to eat cats or dogs. The idea of eating dogs came from usually the more poor areas or communities of Asia. In times of hardship, they were unable to either farm for their food and either sold or ate all their livestock, which lead them to eating cats and dogs. Majority of Asian people do look down upon other Asians that eat dogs and cats for fun, as many of these animals are also others' pets or sick and malnourished animals in the streets. When you are poorer than poor you have fewer options. First off, Asia is a huge region. Probably more ethnic groups and languages than countries. Next, there are a few ethnic groups that have a tradition of eating cats or dogs. Most notably, some parts of the Han ethnic group, in Korea and China, traditionally eat dog. I don't think that this is viewed favorably by anyone. Even Han people. People in general will eat anything that moves. And anything with 4 legs that isn't a table. As an American who has lived abroad for long periods, I freaked people out by telling them that I like mutton, lamb and goat's milk. The locals thought those animals were disgusting, and would occasionally prefer to be larvae, which it turns out are damned good. In Vietnam people eat dogs. Not everyone though, but it's well known and many people of older generations still eat dogs on special occasions. People believe that eating dog meat removes your bad luck. So they eat dog meat at the end of the month, thinking that it gives good luck at the next month. I went to Laos. They eat dogs in Laos. No, I didn't try the dog. I have 2 dogs. I wouldn't be able to live with myself. Yes. I also fed every single stray dog I saw. My wife yelled at me the whole time. If you're poor enough, cats, dogs, opossums, wild goose, rabbit, squirrel, ducks, crawfish, beach crabs, fish heads, anything edible is edible. And if you have 7 kids to feed or something, yeah, I would eat a cat. And I'm white. A huge swath of Asia is dirt poor. I mean like no pumping. Cement slab buildings and clay pig huts poor. I've lived there over study abroad. Not judging them, but if it were me, I'd eat anything I could get my hands on too. And feed my kids anything to keep them from starving. It isn't just Asia either. In Guangdong province, some people eat dogs. I know a few Chinese people. In Canada, they are horrified by this. But it is what it is. It's certainly a small minority, not a majority of Chinese that eat dogs. In Korean, kagogi literally means dog meat. https en.m.wikipedia.org/wiki/dogmeat consumption of South Korea. There are still restaurants that serve dog in Korea, mainly for the old men that tasted this meat during the war and have some kind of nostalgia with this. It's a true fact. Not all Asian peoples, cultures, but Africans as well, and I forget which one is the one, but one of the cultures has an annual, or used to not too long ago, where they have hundreds of caged dogs they abuse and eat. Of course this is from an American's point of view, so you'd have to just do more research for finer details and reasons why it's a thing. I actually went to an international day at one of my foster parents' churches and had some soup and it tasted off, and when I inquired he said he was Korean and grew up poor. His German shepherd died of old age and he refused to waste the meat. Turned my stomach a little, but I also see why he thinks that way. It's a big world with lots of opinions. People do stuff differently, even when choosing what animals to eat. Try finding a cheeseburger in India. Americans are probably ostracized the same way we make jokes about Chinese food being the local strays. I live in Vietnam. And yeah, lock up your pets, because what's worse than just them eating dog or cat meat is that these assholes will steal your pets and sell them to dog and cat restaurants. Because certain Asian countries do eat dogs and cats. It's racist when people assume all Asians do that, when in reality it tends to be just a few Asian countries that are more so second world countries. So still developing. What's sad is this topic is extremely hard to discuss because far too many people don't understand when it becomes racist and when it is just stating facts. In college we discussed this in a sociology class about how if you are referring to one of the countries that eat dogs, it's not racist nor is it wrong to talk about. But when you start referring to this as all Asians, it becomes racist. It's also a thing you saw more back in the day when people were on hard times. It was more common then. My dad was a cop back in the 60s and 70s. He quit the moment the war on drugs started and he saw they wouldn't actually helping people. But back when our city had a huge influx of immigrants from some Asian country, the police kept getting calls from people that their cats went missing. It had turned out the new immigrants viewed them as pests and would eat them. When police came to investigate, they had no problem admitting they ate the cats because it's just a cultural difference. They see nothing wrong with it. Same way a India family would think America is wrong for eating a sacred cow. Because in China dogs and cats are bred as livestock, or at least have been until very recently. It's more taboo nowadays.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.